Detach from Thought. Why Your Mind Isn't Your Master, written by Ronnie Rowland. Published by Growth Literacy Lounge. You're not thinking, you're remembering. Every thought that passes through your mind is a recycled fragment of the past, something you were taught, something you feared, something you survived. We call it thinking, but really it's pattern recognition pretending to be insight. And it's running your life. You believe the voice in your head is you, the commentary, the doubt, the self-judgment. The stories about who you are, what you're worth, and what's possible. It never stops. It's there when you wake up. It follows you into your relationships. It hijacks your focus. And because it never shuts up, you assume it must be telling the truth. But what if it isn't? What if the real you isn't the voice, but the one listening? What if clarity begins not by thinking more, but by thinking less? This book is not a motivational handbook. It's not about grinding harder, fixing your mindset, or becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the noise took over. It's about detaching, not from life, but from the unconscious thought loops that distort it. Detachment doesn't mean disconnection. It means sovereignty. It means you stop reacting to every emotion like it's an emergency. You stop mistaking anxiety for urgency. You stop obeying thoughts that were never yours to begin with. You stop letting your survival brain write your story. You start observing, feeling, choosing. You return to the stillness underneath it all, the stillness that's always been there, buried beneath the noise. Every chapter in this book is a mirror, a challenge, a reminder. You'll find paradox, philosophy, and clarity. But most of all, you'll find yourself. Not the self you've built to be accepted, but the one that already exists, whole and unshaken. The world will try to keep you distracted, your mind will try to keep you safe, but your truth lives somewhere deeper. And this book is your invitation to go there, quietly, fully, now. Chapter 1. You Are Not Your Mind. The voice in your head narrates your entire life, but it isn't you. It tells you who you are, what to fear, and when to move, when to doubt. It says things like I can't do this, or I've always been like that, as if repetition equals reality. But here's the truth, that voice is just noise. You are not your thoughts. You are the one hearing them. This realization is the beginning of power. Because when you think you are your thoughts, you obey them. You let them define you. You react, spiral, and surrender control to something that isn't even real. But when you recognize that you're the observer, not the thinker, you create space, a gap, a breath. And in that breath, you find freedom. The modern mind is overstimulated, over-identified, and addicted to validation. Every ping, every scroll, every swipe reaffirms the ego's need to exist. We don't think, we become the thinking. We confuse motion with meaning. But your thoughts aren't wise. They're just familiar. They're formed from old memories, traumas, expectations, and social conditioning. They're a survival script. And unless you detach from them, they'll keep writing your life story, without your permission. Start noticing that moment when you're angry, but something in you sees the anger before you explode. That's the observer. The pause before the habit. The whisper beneath the noise. That's you. Not the reaction. Not the voice. The awareness. Practice this. Catch yourself mid-thought. Ask, who is thinking this? Don't answer. Just watch. Like a movie. Let it play. Let it pass. Don't get involved. Thoughts are clouds. You are the sky. This doesn't mean you stop thinking. Detachment isn't silence. It's separation. It's the ability to see clearly, without becoming the content of your mind. Your thoughts aren't bad. They're just tools, but when the tool becomes the master, your life becomes reactive, anxious, and fragmented. Reclaim that tool. Imagine sitting in a room. Your thoughts are voices coming from outside the window. You don't need to scream back. You don't need to chase them. Just watch. Just be. This stillness is where clarity lives. This is where creativity comes from. This is where your true self waits, not buried under layers of noise, but sitting quietly behind it. You don't find yourself by thinking more. You find yourself by thinking less. When you detach from thought, you stop obeying fear. You stop chasing identity. You stop defending illusions. What's left is not emptiness, it's space. And in that space you can move with power, act with precision, and live with peace. The mind wants to pull you back. It will tell you detachment is dangerous, that silence is death, that you need the voice, that it is you. Smile at it. It's just scared. But you're not here to live in fear, you're here to wake up. To detach, to choose thought, not become it. And that begins when you realize, you are not your mind, you are the awareness behind it. And you always have been. Chapter 2. The Thought Loop Trap. Most people don't think. They relive. They're not creating new ideas, they're recycling old fears, doubts, beliefs, stories. Every day the same loops play out. Thought triggers emotion, emotion confirms the thought, and the cycle repeats until it becomes a personality. This is the trap. The thought loop. It starts with one simple idea: I'm not good enough. That thought creates anxiety. The anxiety leads to procrastination. The procrastination reinforces the belief. See? I didn't act. I must not be capable. That confirmation becomes identity. The loop tightens. Most of your mental suffering is just a feedback system with no operator. Thoughts are not isolated. They come with a charge, emotion. And emotion comes with a story. The problem isn't the thought, it's how quickly we believe it. We don't pause, we don't question, we let the loop run, unchecked, unobserved, uninterrupted. Your brain is built for survival, not truth. It prefers the familiar over the free. If it has to choose between certainty and peace, it will always choose the one it knows. Even if that certainty is pain, even if that pain is self-inflicted, it's still predictable, safe, comfortable. To break the loop, you don't need motivation, you need awareness. Catch the moment the thought enters. Don't follow it. Don't analyze it. Just notice it. There it is again. That one sentence breaks the loop. You've already won. Because you're no longer inside it, you're above it. You've gone meta. You've become the observer. The loop needs your attention to survive. Without it, it fades. Like a fire without oxygen. Sometimes you'll catch the loop mid-spin. The spiral has already started. You're already angry, scared, stuck. That's okay. Even a late catch is better than blind obedience. The goal isn't perfection. It's pattern recognition. Here's what most people don't realize. The loop is seductive. It feels real. It feels like something important is happening, but it's just noise pretending to be urgency. It tricks you into thinking that thinking will solve it. But the loop was never meant to be solved, only seen. You've been trained to believe that more thinking leads to more clarity. But thinking inside the loop only deepens the confusion. It's like trying to wipe a dirty mirror with a dirty rag. You're just smearing it around. Break the cycle by refusing to participate. Stillness isn't weakness. It's strategy. In the stillness, you see the loop for what it is, a ghost of your past pretending to be your future. And when you stop feeding it, it starves. What's left? Choice. You can choose a new response, a new thought, or no thought at all. That's the power of detachment, not freedom from thought, but freedom with thought. You're not meant to be a slave to your loops, you're meant to rewire them. But you can't rewire what you don't witness. Observation always comes first. Reprogramming comes after. This is the work. Not sexy, not loud. Just quiet moments of noticing, interrupting, reclaiming. You are not broken, you're just caught in a loop that no longer serves you. But now you see it. And once you see it, you can never unsee it. That's the beginning of freedom. Chapter 3. Attention is your power. Attention is your most valuable currency. It builds your identity, shapes your emotions, and directs your energy. Whatever you give it to, you become. Most people live on autopilot, handing out attention like candy, to ads, to algorithms, to other people's opinions, and then they wonder why they feel lost. The quality of your life is the quality of what you pay attention to. Your thoughts don't control you. Your attention to those thoughts does. You've been taught to believe every thought deserves your time, that they're signals, warnings, clues, but most of them are echoes, old noise wearing new masks. Attention makes the unreal feel real. You feel anxious, not because the thought is true, but because you fed it with your awareness. You gave it weight, substance, power. And like a child craving sugar, it learned that screaming gets your attention, so it keeps screaming. But here's the truth, not everything that enters your mind belongs there. You wouldn't eat every piece of food placed in front of you. You wouldn't let every stranger into your home. So why do you accept every thought without question? You have the ability to choose, to filter, to direct. This is where detachment begins, not by fighting thought, but by mastering attention. Focus is not about intensity, it's about intention. You can be hyper-focused on a problem and still be stuck, or gently aware of the present and be completely free. The difference is where your attention rests. Your mind will try to hijack this. It wants to wander, it craves stimulation. But the wandering mind is not free, it's fractured, and a fractured mind can't build anything real, it just reacts, jumps, switches. To reclaim your attention, you must train it. Slow down, breathe, listen, watch. These are not passive acts, they are the most active form of presence. Because attention isn't just noticing, it's choosing what to notice. It's saying, this matters, that doesn't. And when you make that choice consistently, your entire reality shifts. This isn't about hyperproductivity or monk-like discipline. It's about sovereignty. Attention is how you reclaim your mind, your time, your sense of self. You don't need to fix every thought. You just need to stop feeding the ones that hurt you. When your attention is scattered, your energy is diluted. But when it's directed, your presence becomes magnetic. Ideas flow. Decisions sharpen. Clarity emerges. You stop reacting and start creating. This is the path of the observer. You notice the thought arise. You feel the urge to chase it. But instead of following, you return to your breath, your body, the moment. That simple redirection, that return, is everything. Attention is the gateway to awareness. And awareness is the gateway to freedom. You don't need more time. You need more presence. You don't need more information. You need more discernment. You don't need a new identity. You need to stop giving attention to the old one. Most of what you think is important isn't. Most of what you feel compelled to react to doesn't require a response. Attention makes things feel urgent. But urgency is often a lie. The truth is quiet, subtle, found in the gaps between thoughts. And the more attention you give those gaps, the more they expand. You're not powerless. You've just been spending your attention instead of investing it. But now you know where the power is. It's not in thought. It's in where you place your awareness, and no one can take that from you. Chapter 4. Identity is a program. You didn't choose who you are, you inherited it from parents, culture, society, repetition. Every belief you hold about yourself was downloaded, not discovered. Your personality isn't permanent, it's programmed. The mind needs structure, so it creates stories. I'm shy. I'm not good with money. I've always been this way. These aren't facts. They're loops, self-reinforcing scripts based on old data. Your identity is built from emotional residue. A childhood moment where you felt unsafe becomes a lifetime of playing small. One rejection becomes a story about your worth. You internalize, rationalize, and replay until it becomes your reality. But the story isn't true. It's just familiar. And what's familiar becomes comfortable, even if it hurts. Comfort is the enemy of transformation. Your current identity fights change because it sees growth as death. If you stop being the overthinker, who are you? If you stop playing the victim, what happens to the story? Letting go of identity feels like losing control, but what you're actually losing is the illusion. The program doesn't like being questioned. When you try to shift, it resists. Not because you're broken, but because the code is outdated. You've been running the same software on new hardware. Your awareness has evolved, but the identity hasn't caught up. You are not your roles. You are not your trauma. You are not the voice in your head telling you who to be. You are the one who sees it all. To reprogram identity, you must detach from it. Not in rebellion, but in awareness. You can't kill the ego by fighting it. You disarm it by watching. Noticing the pattern, naming the behavior. There's the performer again. There's the avoider. Observation is the first rewrite. Most self-improvement is ego in disguise. It's still identity-seeking, but now it wants to be the better one, the healed one. But healing isn't performance. Growth doesn't have a look. It has a feel, peace, presence, choice. You'll know the shift is real when you stop needing to explain it. This is about deconditioning, not upgrading. The program will say, But this is who I am, that's fine. Let it speak. Let it argue. Let it panic. But don't become it. Watch it like a pop-up ad, persistent, but irrelevant. Then get back to awareness. This is not a mindset hack. It's not about affirmations or labels. It's about waking up to the code you've been running, seeing it clearly, and then deciding, do I still want this? Most of the time, the answer is no. Your identity isn't fixed. It's fluid. It's a sandbox, not a prison. You can play, shift, reframe. You don't have to be consistent. You have to be honest. Honest about what's no longer serving you. Honest about who you're becoming. And honesty begins with detachment. Once you stop clinging to the story, you can rewrite the script. Not from ego, from awareness. That's the only real power. To see the program. To pause the loop, and to choose differently. Your identity is not you. It's just your most repeated thought. And once you stop believing it, you're free to become anything, or nothing. Or something entirely new. Chapter 5. The body remembers everything. You think your mind holds your past. It doesn't. Your body does. Every moment of stress, shame, fear, or suppression, it didn't vanish when the thought faded. It got stored. In your muscles. In your posture. In the way you breathe. Your body holds what the mind tries to forget. Most people are walking history books, full of unprocessed emotion disguised as personality. You feel tight in the chest before speaking your truth. Your stomach knots up when attention lands on you. Your shoulders clench when someone raises their voice. You don't need more thinking to solve it. You need to feel it. Fully. Without the story. Detachment from thought begins with reconnection to sensation. You can't escape the loop if you're only living in your head. The mind spins. The body grounds. That's the key. Most mental noise is a reaction to physical discomfort. But instead of noticing the feeling, we escape into analysis. The mind distracts from the message. And the message is always in the body. That tension is trying to teach you something, not intellectually, energetically. Your body doesn't speak in words. It speaks in pulses, signals, contraction and expansion. When something feels off, your body knows before your mind does. It tightens, it resists, it shuts down, and if you ignore it long enough, it becomes your default state. This is where chronic stress begins. Not from events, but from resistance. You hold your breath through meetings, clench your jaw during conversations, collapse your chest in fear of being seen. Then you wonder why your thoughts feel heavy, why you can't focus, why the noise won't stop. But the noise isn't the problem. It's the alarm system, your body's way of saying, you're not here, you're not listening. Start small. Feel your feet. Notice your breath. Scan your body without judgment. Don't fix, don't force. Just observe. The moment you return to sensation, you exit the loop. You become the witness, not of thought, but of experience. This is not woo. This is ancient wisdom backed by modern science. Trauma isn't stored in memory. It's stored in the nervous system, and detachment from thought requires nervous system regulation. Otherwise, you're just white-knuckling through your loops, pretending to be free while your body screams underneath. Presence lives in the body. Peace lives in the body. You don't have to think your way out. You have to feel your way through. Let the discomfort speak. Don't analyze it. Don't label it. Sit with it. Breathe into it. Most sensations last 90 seconds when you don't resist them, but most people resist for 90 years. That's the difference. The feeling is freedom, because once you allow it, the energy moves, the story dissolves. The mind softens. You become more than just a brain on legs, you become whole. Integrated. Grounded. This is the beginning of real detachment, not a concept, but a practice. Not disconnection, but deeper embodiment. You are not just thoughts. You are breath, pulse, tension, movement, stillness. And when you return to that truth, the loop loses its grip. Your body remembers everything. But it will also release everything, if you're willing to feel. Chapter 6. Silence is a skill. Silence isn't the absence of sound. It's the absence of mental noise. And for most people, that kind of silence is terrifying. The moment external stimulation fades, the music, the scrolling, the conversation, they're left with something louder, themselves. And it's not peace they find. It's chaos, the looping thoughts. the unresolved emotion, the inner critic that never sleeps. So they run back to the noise. We've been conditioned to fear silence because we've never been taught how to sit in it. We think silence is unproductive, that nothing is happening. But that's a lie. Silence is where everything happens. It's where clarity begins, where truth surfaces, where transformation takes root. Most people are busy not because they need to be, but because slowing down would expose what's unresolved. They confuse motion with meaning, activity with value, thought with insight. But the most powerful ideas, the most honest realizations, come in stillness, not from doing more, from being present enough to hear what's already there. Silence reveals what thought covers up. You think you need to find more answers. But often, you just need to stop adding more noise. Your mind doesn't need more input. It needs fewer distractions. And that's what silence gives you, access to the signal underneath the static. But it's not automatic. Silence is a skill. It's a muscle. And like any muscle, it gets stronger through repetition. You won't master it in a weekend. You'll resist it, get restless. Your mind will try to fill the space. That's okay. Don't fight it. Just return, over and over, to your breath, your body, a space between sounds. At first, it will feel empty. Then, it will feel full. Then, it will feel like home. This isn't about becoming a monk. You don't need to disappear into a cave. Silence isn't a place, it's a practice. You can find it in the middle of a conversation, on a walk, between sips of coffee. It's the pause before reaction, the breath before speech. And it changes everything. When you get comfortable with silence, you stop rushing to fill it. You stop needing to prove, explain, defend. You let go of the need to perform, and in that letting go, you find presence. You become magnetic, grounded, clear. Most people speak to feel certain. You'll speak to express truth. Most people move to feel important. You'll move with intention. Most people react to avoid discomfort. You'll respond from stillness. That's the shift. You don't need to destroy your thoughts. You just need to stop being enslaved by them. And silence is how you take back the throne. It teaches you that urgency is often a lie, that the loudest thought isn't the truest one, that presence doesn't shout, it whispers, and you can only hear it when everything else fades. You'll know you're growing when silence stops being scary and starts being sacred, when it becomes your default, not your escape. When you find yourself in quiet rooms and realize you're not alone, you're just finally with yourself. The world will try to convince you that silence is laziness, that rest is weakness, that stillness is unproductive. But that's only true if you define growth by noise. Real growth is invisible. Real clarity is quiet. And the person who can sit in silence without needing to escape it wins. Chapter 7. Thought isn't the enemy. Detachment doesn't mean destruction. You're not here to kill thought. You're here to relate to it differently. Because thought isn't the enemy, identification is. It's not that thinking is bad. It's that we forget we're the one thinking. We mistake the tool for the self. This is where the loop begins. You have a thought. It triggers a feeling. You mistake that feeling for truth. Then you act from it, without question. That's not thinking, that's possession. Your thoughts aren't hurting you. Your attachment to them is. But you can learn to use thought without being used by it. When you detach, thought becomes creative again, playful, strategic. It becomes a brushstroke, not the whole canvas. You shift from victim to artist, or from follower to author. That's the real power, not silence, sovereignty. We've been taught to demonize the mind, or to believe it's always wrong. But that's another trap, another belief wrapped in self-help language. The mind isn't evil, it's misunderstood. When left unchecked, it will run wild. But when guided, it becomes a weapon. The difference is awareness. Thoughts will still come, you'll still plan, analyze, create. But now there's space. Now there's choice. You can zoom in when needed, and zoom out just as fast. You're not stuck. You're surfing, navigating, flowing. This is the paradox of detachment. You think it's about pushing thoughts away, but the real shift happens when you let them be. No resistance, no obsession, just observation. Like watching traffic from a rooftop. You don't need to stop the cars. You just don't have to run into the street. Every thought has a charge. Some seductive, some scary, some subtle, but they only stick when you grip them, when you chase or suppress. The moment you stop engaging, they lose their pull. Not because they disappeared, but because you changed your relationship to them. You became the observer. From this space, you can use thought like a scalpel, precise, intentional, clean. You can shape ideas without being shaped by insecurity. You can make decisions without drowning in doubt. You can lead your mind instead of letting it lead you. But don't expect perfection. Even with awareness, you'll get caught sometimes. You'll believe a thought and spiral. You'll catch yourself mid-loop. That's fine. The win is in the noticing. Every time you catch it, you rewire. Every pause is a new pathway. And eventually, your baseline shifts. You start to think from clarity, not chaos, from presence, not panic. Thought becomes a tool again, sharp, helpful, and aligned. You're not fighting your mind, you're dancing with it. This is the future of consciousness, not thoughtless, thoughtful. Not reactive, responsive, not empty, intentional. Detachment isn't about shutting down, it's about tuning in. Feeling fully, choosing wisely, acting clearly. It's about knowing that every thought is an option, not an order. And that knowledge changes everything. You no longer fear the mind. You understand it. You no longer run from thought. You write it. You no longer obey the voice. You guide it. And in that shift, the enemy becomes your ally. Chapter 8. The Observer State. You've spent most of your life in reaction. A thought appears. You feel something. You do something. And the cycle repeats. There's no space, no question, just momentum. You're not responding, you're reenacting. The same emotions, the same stories, the same moves. But what if you didn't have to? What if you could see the thought, feel the urge, and still choose? That's the observer state. It's not passive, it's powerful. It's not cold detachment, it's warm awareness. It's the ability to witness your inner world without becoming it. You see the anger, but you don't throw the punch. You feel the anxiety, but you don't spiral. You notice the ego, but you don't follow its script. This is the gap between impulse and action, and that gap is everything. Most people try to control behavior at the surface, but real change starts deeper, not in what you do, but in what you see. You don't stop yelling by clenching your fists. You stop yelling by catching the thought before it explodes, by witnessing the rise without feeding the fire. That's what the observer does. It catches the first domino. But you can't observe if you're lost in thought. Observation requires distance. Not disconnection, perspective. The ability to step outside your own head and watch it spin, noticing the pattern, naming the urge, letting it be. This is not easy at first. You'll forget, you'll react, you'll identify. That's okay. The observer doesn't demand perfection, it just invites you to return. Again and again, every return is a win. Every pause is a shift. Every breath is a bridge back to presence. Meditation helps. But this isn't about sitting cross-legged for 30 minutes. It's about living meditative. Being aware in motion. Watching yourself speak. Walk. Think. Eat. You turn your life into the practice. You observe not just what you do, but who you are while doing it. The tone of your voice. The energy behind your words. The story running in the background. Observation turns the unconscious conscious. It pulls shadow into light. And once something is seen, it loses its power. That's the point. The observer doesn't control, it reveals. And what's revealed can be rewired. You are not your emotions. You are the space in which they rise and fall. You are not your habits. You are the awareness that notices them. You are not your mind. You are the witness behind it. And from this state, all change becomes possible. Because now you're no longer a puppet. You're not reacting on default. You're responding from depth, from truth, from clarity. Your choices become cleaner. Your energy becomes lighter. Your presence becomes magnetic. People will feel the difference, not because you're performing peace, but because you're anchored. They'll sense that you're not caught in your head, that you're here, fully, and that presence, that spaciousness, is rare. It's not about escaping your mind, it's about including it, without being consumed by it. You become the observer not to avoid life, but to engage it more skillfully. You don't lose emotion, you gain choice. You don't lose thought, you gain direction. You don't lose yourself, you finally meet yourself, and that meeting changes everything. Chapter 9. The detachment paradox. You can't force yourself to detach. The moment you try, you've already failed, because effort implies resistance, and resistance keeps you stuck. The paradox of detachment is this: the harder you chase it, the further away it feels. That's because chasing is still attachment. Wanting to be free is still being caught. True detachment isn't a goal. It's a byproduct. It arises when you stop clinging to control, when you stop needing your thoughts to go away, when you stop making your inner world a project to fix. Most people approach detachment like a task. They try to silence the mind, kill the ego, eliminate the loop. But that's just another form of obsession, another identity. The one who's healing, the one who's mindful, the one who's above it all. But this mindset is still rooted in fear, in proving, in trying to escape the self. The observer doesn't try to escape, it allows. It watches the chaos without becoming it. It doesn't chase stillness, it simply returns to it, again and again. Not through force, through surrender. You don't detach by effort, you detach by dropping the need to feel detached. That's the paradox. You get what you want when you stop needing it so badly. You find peace when you stop searching for it. You calm the mind when you stop attacking it. You grow when you stop trying so hard to improve. Most people are addicted to progress, not because they love growth, but because they hate themselves. They think they have to earn rest, earn stillness, earn clarity. But those states aren't rewards, they're defaults. You return to them by removing what's in the way, not by piling more on top. Let go of the idea that you need to be fixed. You're not broken, you're just layered, covered, distracted, caught in mental loops that don't belong to you. When you see that clearly, detachment happens naturally, not as a destination, but as a shift in posture. It's not about stepping away from life. It's about stepping back just enough to see it clearly. From that distance, you don't lose connection, you deepen it. You stop clinging to outcomes, stop overthinking every move. Stop trying to script the future. You show up, fully, not because you've figured it all out, but because you've stopped trying to. You become light, playful, fluid. You don't need everything to go right. You don't need people to understand you. You don't need the next moment to be better than this one, and that's when everything opens. Because life responds to detachment, it flows toward presence, toward calm, toward those who aren't constantly grasping. You magnetize results by not being defined by them. You attract clarity by not demanding it. You live well, not by controlling life, but by dancing with it. This doesn't mean you don't care. It means you've stopped carrying the weight of needing everything to mean something. You can still plan, still build, still dream, but now you do it from a place of inner freedom, not fear, not lack, not scarcity. You've dropped the rope, you've stopped fighting the river. Now you're floating. And from that place you go further than you ever could by swimming upstream. Chapter 10. Detachment in Daily Life. Detachment isn't something you visit. It's something you carry. You don't meditate for 30 minutes and then return to chaos. You train your nervous system to stay calm in chaos. You create space between stimulus and response. You move from observer to participant without losing awareness. This is where the real work happens. Not in the silence of retreat, but in the noise of daily life. When your partner snaps, when your client delays, when the phone rings and your plans crumble, can you pause before the reaction? Can you breathe instead of break? Detachment isn't cold. It's clear. It doesn't mean you stop feeling. It means you stop being ruled by what you feel. You feel anger but don't explode. You feel fear but still move. You feel judgment but don't obey it. That's power. And that power shows up in small, invisible ways. You hear someone criticize you, and you don't take it personally. You notice an old insecurity, and instead of spiraling, you name it and let it pass. You feel the pull to scroll, to numb, to react, and instead you return to presence. This is how you reclaim your time. This is how you rewrite your patterns. You live intentionally, not reactively. In conversation, detachment gives you presence. You stop waiting to talk. You start actually listening. You hear beyond words. You feel energy. You sense what's real and what's fear. You become the grounded one in the room, the one who doesn't need to perform. In work, detachment gives you clarity. You stop obsessing over outcomes. You stop needing every move to be perfect. You build with flow, not force. You create because you can, not because you have to. And ironically, that's when your best work shows up, when it's not trying so hard to prove. In money, detachment gives you peace. You stop chasing dollars to fill the void. You stop attaching worth to wealth. You make decisions from alignment, not anxiety. You hold money lightly, not because you don't value it, but because you're not enslaved by it. In conflict, detachment gives you perspective. You stop defending your ego. You start seeking understanding. You don't need to win. You need to stay grounded. The loudest person is usually the most afraid. You don't need to join them there. This isn't about indifference. It's about intention. You still care. You still feel. You still show up. But you're not owned by what happens. You're not swayed by every mood, message, or headline. You don't outsource your peace to the world around you. Because you've found it within. And that's where it stays, not locked away, but carried through everything, through traffic, through tension, through deadlines, through uncertainty. You become the eye of the storm, the one who can be in the world without being of it, not because you're superior, but because you're sovereign. And sovereignty is built one decision at a time. You observe the loop. You choose presence. You move with clarity. Again and again. Until one day you realize you don't even have to think about it anymore. Detachment has become your default, not an escape, but a lifestyle. Chapter 11. Self without thought. Who are you without the noise? Not the titles, not the roles, not the internal narration telling you who to be, but the raw awareness underneath all of it, the part of you that just is, without needing to explain. Most people never meet that version of themselves. They stay wrapped in identity, reacting to the same mental programs on a loop. I'm this type of person. I've always been that way. But identity is just a reflection of thought, and thought is not truth. It's habit. When you slow down enough to stop thinking, something strange happens. You don't disappear, you emerge. Without the thoughts telling you what to fear, what to fix, what to chase, you feel space. At first it might feel empty. But sit in it long enough, and it starts to feel like home. It's not emptiness. It's presence. And from presence, something deeper speaks. Not words, not analysis. Just knowing. You sense what's true before thought even enters. You feel peace, not because everything is perfect, but because nothing needs to be. You're no longer trying to hold yourself together. You've remembered that there's nothing to hold. Thought isn't the foundation. It's the decoration. But most people try to build their sense of self from it, and then wonder why it feels unstable. Their confidence is conditional. Their clarity is fragile. Their peace is borrowed. Because it was never real, it was constructed. But you can't think your way to truth. You have to go beneath it. Self without thought is raw, honest, alive. It's not curated for an audience. It's not optimized for approval. It just is. It breathes. It notices. It exists. Without the need to defend or define. And from that place, everything changes. You speak differently. Because you're no longer speaking to prove. You create differently. Because you're no longer creating from fear. You move differently. Because you're no longer trying to outrun yourself. You return to simplicity. To stillness. Or to sanity. Most people confuse their thoughts with their essence. They think detaching from thought means detaching from life. But it's the opposite. You detach from thought so you can fully engage life, not from ego, but from presence. You stop asking, who should I be? You start noticing who you already are when the noise fades. And what you'll find isn't a better version of your ego. It's something prior. The part of you that notices the ego. The part of you that doesn't need fixing because it was never broken. This doesn't mean you stop thinking altogether. It means thought becomes a tool again. Something you use when needed, and put down when not. You don't wear your mind like a mask. You carry it like a compass. Detached, grounded, clear. You navigate life from a deeper intelligence, not reactive, but responsive. Not seeking, but aware. And in that awareness you find freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want, but the freedom to no longer be ruled by what you think you need. You don't need to become someone. You need to remember who you were before you became anyone. That's the self without thought. Not an achievement, a return. Chapter 12. The Master Within. There comes a point where silence becomes strength, Not because you've eliminated thought, but because you no longer serve it. You've stopped reacting to every impulse. You've stopped obeying every fear. You've stopped mistaking noise for truth, and in that stillness, you meet someone new. Or rather, someone ancient. The part of you that's always been there, beneath the conditioning, beneath the loops, beneath the layers. The awareness behind the performance. The presence beneath the persona. That is the master within. Not a louder voice. A quieter one. Not the one with more opinions, but the one who no longer needs them. Not the one who wins every argument, but the one who no longer feels the urge to fight. Mastery is not dominance over thought, it's harmony with it. You don't banish thoughts, you learn to let them pass. Like weather, like waves, you watch, you allow, and when needed, you choose. From intention, not reaction, from clarity, not chaos. This is what power feels like. Not control over others, control over self. And not through force, through awareness, through presence. Through the subtle, unshakable knowing that you are not your mind, you are the one who moves it. This shifts everything. You no longer look for answers in noise, you find them in stillness. You don't chase purpose, you live it moment by moment. You don't need to prove your worth. You express it in how you walk, how you listen, how you show up. The master within isn't a new identity. It's the absence of one. It's what remains when all the masks drop, when you're no longer performing for the world or hiding from yourself. It's when peace is no longer a practice, it's your default. From here, your life simplifies. Decisions get easier, not because you know the outcome, but because you trust yourself. You act, not to fix something broken, but to express something whole. You speak, not to impress, but to connect. You move, not to escape, but to engage. This is what true detachment gives you, not distance from life, depth in it. You don't float above reality, you stand in it, grounded, calm, present. You're not triggered by every opinion. You're not moved by every mood. You're not defined by every win or loss. You remain a witness, a force, a center. And from that center you lead. Not with ego, with presence, not with noise, with silence, not with force, with clarity. This is the revolution, not out there, but within. A new relationship to thought, or a new relationship to self. And from that, a new way of being in the world. Clear, rooted, alive. You won't always stay here. The mind will pull you back. That's okay. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to remember. Return, reclaim. Again and again. And each time you do, the master grows stronger. Not in volume, in depth. Not in certainty, in awareness. Not in identity, in presence. Because the goal was never to be someone, it was to be here, fully, without the noise. Take care and be well.